Okay, afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday meeting. I'll let you go right ahead.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Savannah Clement, Public Services. So on our agenda today, we're going to start off with just some facilities updates. The annex project, which was the ongoing kind of remediation and reconstruction projects from some water damage, excuse me. The drywall is complete. We also have the network cables installed as well, and so we're moving forward. Next steps, carpet, which we already have going as well. So I think the last project update we got, we're looking out about, I think it was a long projection, so fingers crossed it's shorter, but I think another 6 weeks or so. But it's moving forward at a quicker pace than expected, so we're pretty happy with that. On the same line, we have ordered the desks and panels for OPD so that they can move into their space as soon as it's done. So we're looking at about the same timeline for completion as receiving those, so it should be, fingers crossed, it should all work out schedule-wise to getting them in at the same time. So those are all positives, and that's the first floor. So moving into the second floor after this phase is complete. Also waiting on designs from EDA for the second floor as well. Any questions on the annex OPD space? Okay, move right along. The next item I have on here is third time's a charm. I kind of keep bringing this up, but I do have an update on the Hall of Justice feasibility timeline. So I was able to bring the timeline, which is extremely hard to read and small, very hard for me to read. So I did include it with the proposal, but it is ready for the chairman to sign. And the timeline, we're expecting a November final result. But for our the DC trip in May, I'm hoping that we can have a kind of a broad summary and maybe some of the preliminary items complete. It looks like based off of the Gantt schedule, we might have some information to bring. So I'm going to include the schedule with the proposal if the board is okay having the chair sign this proposal. So I guess I just need some head nods. I see. Okay, I'll take that as yes. So I'll bring that up as soon as we're done here. And then the Janus House update. So a couple of years ago, Public Services took over leases for the county. The Janus House, we call it, is actually two houses near the Hall of Justice that the county owns, and we currently have a leasee occupying that space. We were able to do a tour yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and have Sean explain some of that.
Yeah, Sean Rowe, Public Works. Like Savannah said, we did a tour of the two houses on Washington Street, 124 and 202. The county acquired those some number of years ago. We'd like to create a new lease on that. They have not paid a value in the past. They have done work on the property to improve the property. We're looking at possibly a 5-year term or something along that length. We'd like to just get started on that process. That's something the board's open to continue their work on there. And then possibly expand some of that into the parking lot next door so they have somewhere to park. And of course, they'd be improving that themselves as well. Some of the work they do, I think Savannah can really touch on that.
Thank you. Nice. Yeah, so part of the visit too was to kind of ask a lot of questions about what their program is, what they provide the community, how this lease kind of came about in the first place, because it is very unique to have a nonprofit occupying county-owned space and paying limited lease fees in a short-term lease. It was only a year back when they signed this lease with I think it was the previous chief of staff organized it. And so the history they kind of gave was that these two houses were almost in a condemned shape. And we had actually, as a county, about a block over, tore down some condemned houses that we had owned over there by the bail bonds house, that big white house. The two lots to the north of it are also county owned. And we took those houses down. Actually, I think our road crew took those houses down. These two were kind of on the same chopping block, and Janus House volunteers stepped in and said, wait, we can fix these up. We can use these spaces. You know, let us try. So that all happened. And what Janus House does is provide a day stop area for homeless youth in our community. So we learned a lot about that and asked a lot of questions and found out that they really are relying solely on grant funds, mostly I think state and federal, and then also Actually, their staffing is paid for by St. John's or Peace Health locally to fill the need of supporting this program. It's very interesting. So they're not an overnight shelter. We weren't quite sure how that operated. We were able to physically see the rooms. So their donation room, that they have free clothing, hygiene products. They actually let them do laundry there at that facility. They are able to shower there, kind of have a place to land during the day. That's what one of the facilities is used for, one of the houses. And then the other one, which is almost a mirror copy, is actually like their administrative space. So it's where they hold and host their meetings, meet with case managers. They work a lot with our juvenile detention probation officers for community service and case management. So the house on the left is actually like an administrative office. Anything that I may have?
Yeah, and I just want to add on to it. These are not large homes. They're only about 1,300 square feet, so they are quite small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a small garage unit.
It's not an overnight facility?
It is not, no.
And is this nonprofit on the list of nonprofits that we fund?
We asked that because I was not aware of that, and they are not. They do not get funding, according to them, verbally from the county currently. I did ask that they come to a Wednesday meeting to share with the board what they do and how they provide their service in these 2 houses. So we can either have them come at one of our meetings or a 2:30 meeting, but I did extend that. I think we told them that it would be great to have them come and at least explain what they're doing and how they're serving, this population.
What, so how many people, any idea how many people they helped in the last year or?
I asked that. I felt like I was grilling them, and I was trying not to, but I was like, these are questions that will get asked. And she said it, unfortunately, she had a hard time giving me a number. I was like, any average, weekly, monthly, and she said it's really hit and miss because of the kids that come. So I would imagine maybe a handful a day on sometimes. She said holidays are always very busy there. So Thanksgiving and Christmas time, because they host, their own event there, they get a lot more kids. And it really kind of just depends on the time of year and what's going on in these kids' lives. So I could not give that number, although we did
Okay.
ask.
But the county owns the houses.
Correct.
And what kind of an agreement do we have? They are paying us rent? Is that right?
No. I'll let Sean.
So the lease, they put a deposit on the homes of about $1,000. They do not pay us rent. Instead, they are doing the maintenance and improvement on the buildings themselves. These were very rough buildings when they took this over, like Savannah said. The other homes in the area were demolished, and these probably would have been demolished as well if they didn't take these over.
So we have no cost in the maintenance of those buildings.
And we have no liability?
That's my understanding.
Right, okay, I guess.
Well, There's always.
I
probably
want it better than
liability.
your understanding.
Yeah, I'm sure there's always liability being a county-owned property. Yes, but they do have insurance in place.
Yeah, and so at this point in time, if the board is open to this, I'd start working with legal and revamping this agreement to a more current version, and then come back to the board when we're ready to have further discussions on that. And hopefully Janice House has been here to discuss with you their mission, their goals, and then we can make a decision at that point.
Because like Sean said, it was a 1-year contract with 2 renewables, I believe, behind it. But
Mhm.
even those expired a few years back.
Mhm.
So when we no longer had chief of staff and the leases kind of fell to nowhere, we got the file. So now we're going through those and seeing what's out of date and what we need to, and this is one of them. That's why we toured it as a group to see where we're at. So it was an eye opener for the 3 of us when we toured this week to see what the conditions of the place, what work they did, what work continues to need to be done, but what would a future lease would look like for them if the commissioners and Janice House wants to continue that lease.
Yeah, I would say that my only, if legal's gonna look over the contract, my only concern would be is, if we're giving them the lease in lieu of the maintenance, what's the market rate that we would charge for that? And are we even close to it? Are we gifting things at that point? I would want to make sure that we're not in that situation.
Mhm.
And those were clearly spelled out in the last lease, and I expect to see that again.
Mhm.
Well, if the original agreements are long past expired, I guess I'm I want to know that we don't have any liability and any responsibility if somebody gets hurt or killed on that property.
Mhm. I agree. We'll look into that. We'll ask risk.
Yeah, well, last risk and risk pool.
Who runs it?
So from my
I
understanding,
heard
is
the name St. John, but
yeah,
they just helps.
they just
with-
supplement wages, correct? So it's 4 staff people. I believe they're full-time. The person that we met with, her name's Tina. She's what, from my understanding, the director. They have an office support person and 2 coordinators, so outreach coordinators, making 4 total. They have 2 outreach vehicles as well that are on the property that they use to, I guess, engage with homeless youth in our area.
So they don't work for another entity. They just formed
Yeah.
what they call Janus House.
Correct. And there is one other Janus House in Clark County. They're not really affiliated, like, like a Habitat for Humanity has like an international, like almost like a franchise, but they don't. They're just independently operated. They have their own
Like-
board.
Across the board where they're affiliated with the church or something, they're just.
Yeah,
a
not
group
to
of
mind.
Individuals that wanted to do this.
Yeah, I'm guessing that
That's how I like to see it work right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, only meeting once and walking through with them, they're obviously very passionate about what they do and the community they serve. Some facts they gave us was they're like the only, she threw out a lot of acronyms that I'm not familiar with that we kind of asked her to spell out, but essentially they're the only agency in our area or county that holds a certain license to work with like at-risk commercially exploited children. And so a lot of so DSHS and a lot of other agencies will refer or work with them because they're the only ones licensed. So, they do hold kind of a niche, for lack of a better word, in our area for serving certain populations of children.
Probably asking you a whole lot of questions you don't know. Do you know if they work with the schools? I mean, are they, because the schools
not
have
know.
a group of kids that are homeless that go into
Mhm.
school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great question. I don't have an answer, but I could find out. She did talk a lot about, kind of the misconceptions in our community about the youth they serve. And she said a lot of people assume that they're addicted to drugs, and have substance abuse. And she kind of, I would say, demystified that and said, no, that's actually not the case. You'd be surprised. A lot of them actually have vehicles or they're working or they're living in their vehicles. They just don't like have a family structure that they can go to.
Yeah, they said most of the kids, actually, she almost said all the kids don't go home at night. There's not a place to go to. We thought maybe this after school, they go there for a couple hours and go home. As though they either couch surf, go to somebody's house, relative, or most of them do sleep in their own automobiles.
This gives them a place to shower and do,
Mhm.
Yep.
do
Mhm.
or other normal. Well, I think we should support it how we can.
Yeah. It would be great if they could come to a meeting.
Agree. And I did extend that. So we'll reach out to her now that we've met with the board and try to secure a date for them to come and kind of talk about their program. Maybe have a lot more answers than I have.
And we did kind of coach her along the way of maybe what to bring to the board.
Yeah.
Knowing that these questions would be asked that we
Mhm.
don't have answers to, but
Mhm.
they would.
Mhm.
But we'll make sure if we know we're going to do this, make sure it's like a liability and the legal side's all in place.
Yeah, before we move forward.
Yeah.
I'd
Anytime county's involved, they'll sue you for whatever, but
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with.
Mm.
Yeah,
Commissioner
I'd very
Farrell.
much like to see it spelled out, who they are, what they do, who they
Mhm.
help, and where the line gets
Yeah.
drawn for who they do and who they don't.
Correct.
And then specifically the legal agreement between us and them to make sure that we don't have any liability and that we're not gifting funds, but somewhere that needs to be spelled out.
We can send you a copy of
I was
the
gonna say, we have a
past
copy.
agreement, just so you can see what they were, the
Yeah.
agreement was and what their return was supposed to be on the maintenance side of the facility, just to see.
Okay?
And then
I'll
we'll,
give you my copy today.
Yeah. Personal opinion, I think this is the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for bringing it out.
Mhm. Okay, you want me to just go
I
ahead?
have one more. I have a quick facilities item. Just if you saw there was a Core van in the west parking lot last couple of days. We're adding some additional lighting to the exterior of this facility, mainly from the rooftop. So we've noticed that at certain times of the day, it's been kind of dark, especially on the south side of this facility. So we're trying to lighten this place up a little bit more. So in case you were wondering why the van was here, so
So we'd be a shiny beacon on the hill.
Hopefully.
kind of, it worked at the museum, so.
Yeah, that's-
Parks, just a quick update on the smelt run. Today was the first day, I believe it's today and Saturday, and also they're going to try to have dips next Wednesday and Saturday. I don't know if there's a lot of smelt in the river right now, but it's supposed to be from Allen Street Bridge up to the boat ramp in Castle Rock, the boat launch behind the high school.
So don't take West Side Highway.
I haven't seen any indications that they're running strong. I haven't seen
Birds.
seagulls or eagles.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of
Seal.
seagulls filling
I
the
know.
air.
Correct.
And I just drove right through Castle Rock this morning last year when they did it.
Yep.
I had to drive up the Vader to
Yeah.
get it.
Kind of crazy through there.
Yeah.
So they said they will not extend it past next week. So if there's a run later, of late run this year, next week's the only other option for dipping. So they tell us mainly because they want to make sure all our restrooms are open at Riverside, Camelot, and Cooks Ferry. Because mainly at Riverside, that's where their home base is for their officers. And they usually have about 10 to 12 officers here patrolling the riverbanks to make sure people have licenses. So we'll make sure we have staff there on Saturday to make sure everything's open and cleaned.
And that's why they're not going to extend it?
Well, they just told us that we're going to extend it because they're only going to try 2 weeks, and that was it. They didn't give any other reason other than they'll expect us to open it up in end of March. So usually it's a February run. If it's not here by now, I don't know if we're going to have a.
Hey,
Have a
this
run.
is- This is,
Yeah, I
this is way late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you want to go on the proposal?
So you guys have another ETA proposal in front of you, and this isn't relating to the, what we've coined the Legacy Park project. I had brought this to the board probably 8 months or so ago to talk about our plans at Riverside Park. We would like to construct what we call the Legacy Park there, which consists of a pump track, so a bicycle track essentially, and then also updating playground equipment to make it more ADA accessible. And then really that's it. The majority of it is going to go for a pump track design and a new playground set. Right now, we're trying to secure funding, and met with our lobbyist a couple different times, which is David Hodges, who's been really great at helping us get these projects kind of earmarked and funded from outside of the county, if we can. Parks projects are really hard to get funded. They're just a lot of areas have parks, and a lot of people are trying to get the money for them, and we don't have a lot to make us stand out. Unfortunately, we tried to go after funds for certain census districts, so low income, school population. It's really the only park in the area of this size, and we kind of missed the mark on that. So David's recommendation, and then also Kathleen from USDA was like, you guys need to get project boards in front of people, and that's going to help you guys get funding. And so that's what we're putting in front of you today. This is really to help us get some conceptual designs out there, aside from our screenshot pictures that we have, which I can send you. They're really our in-house kind of ideas. So this attempts to try to get a really good design project going for these two items. So that's what this is. The original quote was higher. They reduced some fees and got it to about a little over 13,000. That's where we're at. I'm not asking for approval today. I would like you guys to be able to read this. I'm going to send you some of the presentations that we've done in the material to give you guys an idea and some context behind this. And I'll come back next Wednesday and kind of talk it out again and see what your thoughts are. If we can get it done by May, I'd love to have it to request
Yeah,
funding.
this is really the premier park in our system.
It
you
is.
know, And Lexington isn't shrinking by any means, so I think it serves a big need over there. And
What, by definition, what changes ADA equipment?
It
By
wouldn't-
definition, I wouldn't think very many people are gonna be all that active that are ADA qualified to be using very much intensive work or
Sure.
workout type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that we don't have any parks in our system that have any kind of ADA accessibility. Most parks in our surrounding area do to an extent. The entire structure is not going to be ADA. It would probably just be some portions. What's a good Penny Park up north is a really good example too. They've just redone that and implemented some ADA accessibility features, which I don't think people even notice. I think it's just part of the park.
And,
Would this be an additional equipment or replacing anything?
It would be actually a new park play structure in the park. So we'd still have our other equipment. Right now, we only have one play structure there. And it's getting outdated as well, but I think the intent is to, because we've been replacing things on it, keep that and we're installing another structure so that people have two spots to play. And then Commissioner Dahl, were you going to reference the city of Kelso?
yeah, the one they just completed down there
Mhm.
would give you an idea of the type of equipment. I think it's not as, there is some difference in equipment, but I think it's the way they can access the equipment. It's
Correct.
more of the surfaces where a
Okay.
lot of the ADA comes in, but if you drive by the park down there, you'll see kind of what, that one's all ADA compliant, so that would be kind of what it is.
And a little, just some fun facts is the county commissioners actually approved that for Kelso and provided ARPA funds to fund that park in Kelso for the city. So yeah, I'll bring more information, send you guys some slides and talk about it next week.
Okay.
Do we have any parks that have the old school stainless steel slides that melt your back as you slide down it?
I don't, unfortunately, no, but man, I've got some memories.
I mean, that, yeah.
Yeah,
those were in
Tamo was a
parks
death
back
trap.
then. The
Yeah,
Jungle gyms, the monkey bars. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have any of that anymore.
scald your skin.
Yeah.
Seattle does. They have a whole park that's all like a stainless. It's
Retro.
also a death trap. Yeah.
It might be a consideration for those of us in our generation.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, nostalgic.
bunch of older people out there with ambulances standing by.
The fire district's right by the Riverside, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pass it on to Susan for Public Works. Did you want to come up, Sean, for crab stuff or?
Some, Mike? You have some of it, right? Yes.
She's hoping.
Told you. So good afternoon, Susan Eugenius. Sean kept our copy. Thank you. So let's see, the first item I have is CRAB documents. So as everybody else is, we are submitting annual reports. The first form that we submit is the road levy and estimated revenue certification. This information is all provided by the other offices. And we fill out the form. It shows that we're not diverting. It shows what we're putting in traffic enforcement, which is nothing. It gets submitted, certified by me, and once I sign it with CRAB's new magical documentation, it gets sent automatically to Commissioner Dahl as the chairman. Did you have it?
I already saw it today and I was wondering, oh, it must be coming in, but
So did you want, I brought a copy of what you're certifying.
Thank you.
I mean, I haven't gone in electronically and done it until the board gets a chance to hear it, but
So this is all part of their change of their new efficient paperless system that we used to physically bring this to the board for signature, where I would sign it, we'd do wet signature. This is the first year they've done it in this manner. So it shows the total county valuation, what the road district valuation is, what our highest possible levy is, and what the levy we adopted in November was, and what our banked capacity is. So these numbers are all provided to Public Works that we input into this form.
Grab just accumulates this data.
Yes. We need to submit this in order to continue our eligibility for RAP and RATA funds.
I give, maybe they already know, but give a quick explanation of the RAP funds.
So RAP is the Rural Arterial Preservation Funds, which comes out of the RATA account, the Rural Arterial, oh, I forgot what the T is, Transportation Authority. So this is the funds that the state gives to CRAB that gets distributed directly to the counties. We apply for projects on our arterials and collectors. So the big project that we're using RAP fund on this year is the Dyke Road, and there's also RAP funding in Cloverdale. We receive somewhere in between $1 and $2 million per biennium of these funds. It does not have some of the same ties that WashDOT money has. We basically reported, and as long as we're using standard engineering practice and WashDOTs, they don't. It doesn't have the Buy America, Build America. It doesn't have the DBE requirements. If your project's under that $2 million threshold, it doesn't have the training requirements. Basically, we just report to CRAB what we do. They don't review the plans and have their fingers in what we're doing beyond, yes, this meets the project criteria.
And you said we typically get between 1 and 2 million a year from this?
Biennium.
Biennium.
So every 2 years. Some years we spend more because it gets banked. And it's based on county population and road mile is how they distribute the dollars. So the higher population and the higher road miles gets more money. And that's lane mile, not center line mile, which are two different numbers because some, especially if you're in Thurston County or Clark County, you have a lot of roads that are two ways in each direction. So it's done by lane mile, not center line. Because that's twice as many as a single lane road or two-way traffic.
As far as agencies go, CRAB, I think is pretty decent. They do pretty well whenever I think of a Washington State, a government agency, nuts. It's probably going to be a lot of nonsense, but CRAB really isn't. It's really run by people that aren't government type so much.
They're government types like I'm government types.
Yeah.
So the executive director, she is not an engineer, but the deputy director, he's a former county engineer. Their compliance director is a former county engineer, and the one who runs all the RAP programs, he is also a former county engineer. And that is fairly typical for CRAB, that most of their staff is former county engineers.
Yeah. And from what I've seen, they try to be pretty equitable and fair in how they distribute out money. So it's not, I don't see a whole lot of political nonsense involved with it. So that's just my take on what I've learned of CRAB.
So y'all are good with Commissioner Dahl using that electronic pen and signing away?
Works for me.
So the next item we've already, if we're done, any more questions? Okay, so the next item, we've talked to you before about the ecology stormwater electronic signature in February. I can't remember what meeting. It's one of ecology's rules that when there's a new board, they have to say that, yes, the director of public works is the responsible official to sign everything. So on next week's agenda, you will see the formal letter that we copied from the last letter that was signed. Plus, we have an electronic signature form that you left on your desk.
I did,
didn't
yes.
you?
I did fill it out and sign it. So when she's going over the 25 summer projects, I'll run back real quick so Chairman Dahl can sign it behind me.
And then we'll just slip it, we'll just leave it with Kelly so it can be added to the documents
Okay.
For next week's agenda. So it's an electronic signature form that both of you have to sign so that Mike can officially sign. This is a discussion that we've had with ecology in the past of why we have to do this because we name Public Works Director. Their opinion is that when the board changes, they need to acknowledge the delegation. They're the only state agency we work with that makes us do this. So that is what that is. So the next item, we can talk as much as you want or as little as you want. If you are not in the mood to hear about my summer construction program, we will put it off for another day. If you want a short version, I could give you a short version, or I could give you a long detailed version. What's your feeling today?
Your short version will probably turn into a long detailed version, I'm sure.
Probably. Go in the middle. So we've talked a lot about how ambitious our construction schedule is this year. And so I kind of wanted to give you an update on where we are, and how close I think I'm hitting my goal. Yes, I'm not going to hit my goal because something weird always happens, because that's the nature of county projects. So this is my updated, excuse me, summary of where we are and where I think we're going to end up with call for bid dates. So I have the project names. I should have spelled some of these out better. Who the project engineer is, so obviously I've been using this internally too, and what our call for bid dates is and our construction estimate with some notes off on the side. So the first two projects are awarded, executed, and we are underway. So the Tower Juanita, that's the pump stations up in Tootle. Sorry, that's the one I meant. I should have added more information. So they are actually out working. If you live up off of Spirit Lake Highway, you'll see them out installing water line on Spirit Lake Highway in the vicinity of Tower Road. Will put the pump station in late summer. So their plan is to finish up all the water line work, and then when the pump station comes in, finish the project. So the unit price guardrail, and that's our guardrail repair project that's been awarded. They've been working for a week and a half now. They start at South County east of I-5, and they're working their way north, and they're going to swing back around west side of I-5, north to south. We anticipate this round to be done in 3 or 4 weeks, and that we will have to do another round in the fall, because we already have additional locations that are coming up, and the contractor has indicated that they have other jobs that they have committed to, so we'll leave what is currently occurring to run a new list for the fall, and we'll schedule another time period with him in the fall to do another run. We're currently estimating that at $460,000 for our repair project. The Tootle wastewater treatment plant, that has been bid, awarded, and you will see it next week for execution. That's a $1.45 million project, ARPA money, total upgrades. So those top three, we're on it. They're going to be done. I'll be excited. I'll get 3 projects definitely off my list. So guardrail and delineators, those are WashDOT projects, and we have been working with WashDOT since November, back and forth to get the final approval. I had hoped those were going out in January. They are still going back and forth, and the project engineer is about to go on vacation. So they'll sit for another couple of weeks. So you will not see those until April. Our annual overlay, I included it in this project because even though it's a maintenance project, it's a project that the engineering division handles because it's a contractor. So we're a $2.1 million project. Our roads have been selected. We've reviewed the specifications. I've indicated they're at 95%. What we're waiting on is we're doing some work on Kalama River Road that potentially, and Todd Road, that impacts the highway. And so you have to get a permit from WashDOT. So that permit has been submitted. And as soon as we have that permit, we'll be ready to go out for bid. Next, I have down striping. We are currently about 80% on those specifications, and we usually like to delay that one at least a month behind overlay and not do it too early because we need to have all of our chip seal, but you don't want to do it too late because then you don't get on the schedule. That one's a balancing act to get out in good weather, but not too early. I'm actually kind of doing the long version. Garlock culvert, we opened bids for the materials only last week. So the award for the materials is next week, and we anticipate 2 weeks out for going out to bid. Allender Bridge, that's up in the Riderwood area. That is STP bridge money. That's another one that we've been going back and forth with WashDOT to get the final approval. We put that one behind South Cloverdale just because we want to get South Cloverdale out on the streets as early as possible. Tyne Creek Culvert, this is a FEMA project. That is call for bids next week. It's a small project, so it's one of those weird quirks. It's under $1 million construction. We've already received the money. It's sitting in our coffers. We just need to spend it.
Is that the culvert at the bottom of Italian Creek Road?
No, this is a culvert up past Greenwood. So where Greenwood comes in to Italian Creek, you turn a right, keep going up the hill, and it's up a little ways from Greenwood. It was damaged. The whole end section was damaged. It got plugged. The road was a little damaged during 2022. Event that we're working on getting finalized. So we have all the permits. We're ready to go. Tower Road Bridge, working on property acquisition and our final permits, hoping to get that out July at the latest.
How much do we have to? How much property we need there? I guess I'm thinking of the house. Remember the house
Yes.
right after it where they had some issues and stuff?
So we need a little bit on the front where their driveway is. And then we need temporary easements up the creek a little ways and a little further up their driveway because some of the design on that bridge, it's actually raising the road grade, which is a good thing for them because their driveway is very steep. So by raising the road, we're going to raise their driveway and flatten it out a little. It's still going to be steep, but it's not going to be as bad. So we do need some property from them, and that's what we're working on. We had our shorelines hearing. Can't remember if it was this week or last week. Everything's blurring together. What comments that came out of that is we need to add more large woody material to the creek. So we're going to be adding those into our plans also. So we're getting close on all the permits, and I believe the appraisals are under review so they can go to the acquisition agent to acquire what we need, because we need property from those people and people on the downstream side who own on both sides of the creek. I can't remember if we need any on the opposite side of the creek from the people whose driveway was impacted. We might need some temporary for them so we can get down and work into the creek because it's actually easier coming off that side.
So it sounds like some of the work we do will be some benefit to this couple.
Yes, there will be a little benefit.
I just remember back, that was pretty distressing for them when that all came out.
Yes.
And I think conservation area has been able to work the bank for them.
Yes, conservation has rocked that bank. And so that bank is rocked. We'll put in some large woody debris to create habitat down in the creek itself. So, and I think we are disturbing a little bit of that rocking, but we'll put it back. So,
When we acquire land like that, how's that done? Do they just concede a certain square footage to us because of the project? How do we get that?
so, okay, right away. So when we have a project and we require right of way, we generally acquire strips on the front of people property, and we'll acquire permanent, which will have structures that we'll maintain in perpetuity with the road, and then temporary, and those are usually tying in a driveway or to get access down under a bridge. So Public Works has 2 right-of-way agents on staff. One right-of-way agent is about 2 months away from being a certified WashDOT appraiser, and the other is our acquisition agent. When you're doing a project, you go out, you appraise the property, and come up with comparables for the reasonable value in the area for what the ground is worth. We do tree cruises, which we do outside of the county, to value any trees that are in this area that we're going to be acquiring. And fences or any other structure that's within that area, we get a value for them to move or replace. So once the appraisal's done, if it's a WashDOT project, you are then required to do a review appraisal. So an independent appraiser looks at what the first appraisal comes up with and goes, yes, 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 or yes, oh, that one's not quite right, and you make some adjustments. So what they come up with is a cost per square foot. So if it's $1 a square foot, and you're acquiring 1,000 square feet on a 10 by 100 foot strip, let's say, we would then offer them $1,000 for the property and whatever, so that if they had a fence in that area, whatever the value of the fence is and whatever the value of the tree is. So then the person who's the acquisition agent goes out with that offer, and it's a letter saying, we've done this appraisal, here's a copy of the appraisal. The county is offering you $1,500 to purchase the rights for the property and to compensate you for your fence, your shed, whatever it happens to be. If we need temporary rights, depending on if there's federal money or not, we go. And in addition to the permanent take, we also need a strip that's 30 feet by 20 feet to tie your driveway back in. So that when we're working, the contractor will be on your property. We'd like those rights for the duration of the project, and you offer them, depending on the project. Federal projects require you to offer them money. We are offering you, instead of $1, 10 cents or 20 cents for renting your property. And so they go out with that offer. They are given a letter that by state law, you do have the right as a citizen to say, I don't agree with your appraiser. And the county says, you are able to have that opinion. We will offer you $750 to pay for an independent appraisal. And they can bring back an appraisal that either agrees, contests. One of the recent property acquisitions I brought forward, they did have an independent appraisal done. Their appraisal came in, I don't remember what the dollar amount was, above what ours were. We didn't agree with one of the comparables, but we compromised in the middle between their appraisal and our appraisal, and that's what the acquisition agent does. So by state and federal law, the engineers that design the project cannot be involved in the appraisals and the acquisitions because we're considered to have vested interest. So that's why we use the independent appraisers and either our acquisition agent or an independent acquisition agent. We have on-call contracts with independent appraisers and independent acquisition agents. We generally use them on the more complicated projects. So if we're doing a little, I think Italian Creek, we did our own appraisals and acquisitions. So our appraiser goes out, does the comparables, creates the report. Our surveyor draws up the area. We come up with a value. Our acquisition agent contacts them, goes out and negotiates, and then we bring them in for your approval for signature. So that's the right-of-way process and how it works. And they keep very detailed diaries of, I talked to John Smith on this day, telling them that this project is coming, and here's general information on the project. We met with him on this day with the engineer because he had questions about the plans. we presented him his offer, we received back acknowledgement or questions. Hey, when you did this, you missed grandma's rose bush or the apple tree my grandfather planted. And all those things are negotiated and come into the end. When they're federal projects, those diaries are scrutinized by the WashDOT to make sure that we're following all of the balance items. And we have had to, in the past, go back and change things because they changed the rules and we have missed a few things and have to go back and resettle things. Now, if we meet somebody who doesn't want to, says, I'm not selling you this, I don't care how much money, that's when I would come to you and say, hey, we have a difficult person. We'd like to start the eminent domain proceedings to get whatever area we need. We need to have all that documentation from the right-of-way agent. That's when Doug gets involved, and there's certain filings. Once you guys give us the permission, the first thing that happens is a letter goes out saying that this is your notice, that a week from today, 10 days from today, we're going to stop negotiating and start the eminent domain proceedings. Some people that works and they make up the mind and settle. Others, you have to go all the way through the court process, which we try to avoid at all cost. Because it costs us more money, not just what we end up paying for attorney's time, even if we come out on the amount we said, it costs us project time.
Yeah. Thank you for the very thorough answer. For future reference, was that the short version or the detailed version?
That's my detailed version. The right-of-way agent might give you an even more detailed version.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping it works well with these folks. It actually, I was in the audience when they came in. It was before my time, and I didn't disagree with the county's stance on it, but I did feel bad for the stuff they had to go through with that property and what damage it did to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we did, and this, once again, was before my time, didn't we eminent domain for the overpass down here by the golf course?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was one
That wasn't
property.
That wasn't pleasant either, so.
But fortunately for us, because it's a Kelso project, they handled all of it.
Yeah.
They did that whole
On the
process.
current acquisitions that you're referring to, are we in good negotiations with the landowners?
Currently, yes. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have to come in and ask you guys to go to eminent domain. We did have one landowner on South Cloverdale that we got close to going that route, so. Unfortunately, it does happen. That's the goal. I lost track of where we were.
Tower Road.
Oh, Tower Road. So we talked about Tower Road. The next one, I should have changed the name. I missed that. I left it on there. The next project internally we call the Allender Happy Tree Slide. So this is out on Allender Road. There's the creek is eating into the road. And the reason it's called the Happy Tree Slide is there is a tree right adjacent to this area where someone's carved a face into the tree. So in the office is referred to as the Happy Tree Slide. On that one, we were hoping to go out this year. We're not sure if we're going to get our permits to make the fish window, but sorry for leaving the unofficial name on the list. Then we have the Riderwood Emergency Water, which is also a property acquisition. Camelot Loss, where we're finalizing the permitting, and Shadow Mountain, which once we get the other water sewers out to bid, we will determine the scale of it based on how much money we have available between the ARPA funds and our congressional funds. But we will be doing some version of that and starting a call for bids this fall. A Pleasant Hill Bridge, that's out on Pleasant Hill. We lost that large culvert out there. We have a temp bridge in there. It is also a FEMA project. FEMA has a little, every agency is slightly different that you work through. So we're working with FEMA. We just received a bunch of comments back from FEMA. Our goal is to advertise that in the fall. The way the new bridge that's going to go in is designed, we will be able to work in the winter because we're not going to be working in the water. We will, plan is to shut that road down for the duration of the project because it's an easy detour. We'll pull the temporary bridge out of there. They'll drill behind where the foundations are for that bridge, put the bearings, the foundation, the head walls, wing walls, all constructed outside of the water, put the beams down, do the decking, and then whatever mitigation we have to do, we can do next summer during the fish window. So we will be able to get most of that constructed over this upcoming winter. Just the goal.
So with bridges, I'm assuming not everything is the same as a culvert as far as fish passage goes, but we still have to deal with that when we're doing bridges.
If you have to work in the water, so for the Ostrander triple box culvert is now a bridge. To pull everything is in there and to put the foundation the way the wing walls and the head walls are on that project, the work was in the creek, so you still have to do the fish isolation and do it during, that fish window. So yes, we do have to deal with it. It all depends on how your bridge is falling. The work takes a lot longer than the fish window. If your foundation is wet, then you have to do that during the fish window. If it's just the channel, because they have us reconstruct a interior low flow channel, if that's the only work that you have to do, you can time the rest of the work whenever you see fit, and that works for the contractor to get under the bridge or in the culvert. So Dyke Road, that is that section that has crab money in it. We've been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for a year, getting our 408 permit. It has been our plans are ready to go, but they want it how every utility is relocating their equipment as part of this process, and we are working on getting the last one turned in so that we can get that approval. We're hoping to get that approval and advertise in June. So the next two, West Side Highway Slide and Butte Hill Slide, they're both relatively small projects. Plans are pretty close to going, but we don't want to advertise them too early because you don't want to work on a landslide until August or September, because that's when your material's your driest. So that's why those projects, we've been focusing on everything else. We'll advertise those late season. A lot of contractors use those as fillers at their end of season work. They look at them and go, okay, in September, my crews will be knocking down. August, I'll be knocking off some work. So they like to pick those up then. Next is the biggest project on the list, the South Cloverdale Road project. So there's a little bit of a saga as to why that hasn't advertised. So our goal was advertised December. We are working on the specs. One of WashDOT's quirks is you have to use whatever the current specification is. They also say if you're advertising in the fall of 24, but most of the work will be done in 25, if you advertise before X date, you can use the 24 specs. So we were aiming for that date, and that date moved on us by 2 weeks. So we missed that date, and we converted our specs from the 2024 to 2025 version. We sent those into WashDOT in mid-December, and we got comments back mid-January. We've been going back and forth with comments. The last thing that we're hashing out is fish handling. So WashDOT specs, WashDOT has a staff of biologists, and the way their specification reads, the contractor needs to coordinate that work with the contracting agency who will defish the stream for them. Well, we don't have a staff of biologists, and so we always have the contractors do it because it takes out that coordination where they're coordinating with us, who's coordinating with the third party. So we think we've got the specs to the point that they're happy, so I'm hoping to advertise that the last week of March, but it might be the first week of April. So we have 2 culverts on that project that are fish passage culverts. So the rest of the specifications have been agreed upon. So one of the new things that we're starting this year, as part of our compliance with ADA requirements, we're starting an annual ADA project. We have survey complete, and we're looking at doing it in August, maybe September. So we're looking at doing an intersection in Lexington near the school. So based on our ADA transition plan, that was one of our areas of focus. So we decided we'd start at the school and radiate out from there, upgrading all of our ramps or installing ramps where we don't have them around the school, main school walking path. So we've picked an intersection, gotten obtained the survey. We're going to make sure we can get the ramps to work and meet ADA requirements, which sometimes is more complicated than you think, and remove the old ramps that no longer meet requirements and put in some new ones. And then the last one on the list is the South Tootle headwall repairs. So our one of our culverts in South Tootle Road has a head wall that is being eroded behind. This is a culvert on our list to replace, but we are slightly concerned that that head wall will go before we get to the project. It's not funded yet. We're searching for funding for the culvert replacement, but we don't think the head wall will last. We had our geotech consultant give us multiple options, a long-term fix, short-term fix, 2 different short-term fixes with different costs. And so we've picked the lowest cost that will keep us out of the water. So it minimizes and almost eliminates the permitting that will be required to be completed. So we hope to get this out in July so that we can shore it up and last the 5 to 10 years before this culvert will be replaced. We've applied for Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board funding to replace the culvert since it is considered a fish passage barrier,
Fish passage.
but it is a culvert that has issues. But it's on one of their priority streams. So we looked at it as an opportunity for us to replace something that's failing. But it will take, so it's on the list for design in this upcoming biennium, which starts July 1. It is somewhere in the middle of the list. So there's 102 projects. I believe this one is in the 30s. So it's one of those, the funding line has varied at anywhere from 24 to 40 in the past few years. So it's one that might be funded. We do have a project on the list that I don't know if you guys heard when you guys were running for office, that the #1 list on their project list is a Cowlitz County project. So I'm pretty confident if they're funding anything on that list, we will get funding for at least one project.
Does this culvert give you any heartburn like the one where we're doing the bridge over? Is it of that magnitude?
So it is currently a single box. So it's a tall, narrow single box. I don't remember how wide it is off the top of my head because I didn't look at it before I
So if-
left the
if-
office.
If it fails, we don't think it'll be as catastrophic as the one up by the house, or we don't know?
I don't think this one will fail in the same way. This one is a concrete. So this one is a concrete box. Concrete boxes were generally put in the, excuse me, 30s to 50s, and they are built like bunkers. So
Okay.
unless they've had some kind of spalling or they're being eaten around, we tend to think that they're going to stand for a while. What happened at the Tower Road ones that failed? So in 1980, when the mountain erupted, the mud flow went up this creek, so up Rock Creek. So in 82 or 83, so the existing box culvert that was there was buried. So I believe shortly thereafter, in the early 80s, they came back in and they put two corrugated metal pipes on the top of the mud flow, rebuilt the road on top of it. So the failure of these culverts, so these were culverts that were put in the 80s, excuse me, so they are 40-plus years old. The material is all mud flow material. For some reason, those culverts were clogged, and the pressure from the water became such that that mud flow material washed out. So from the bank where it came around the corner where the mud flow started, all the way down under the road and out to the Tootle, it washed out and it dropped. The stream bed is now about 2 to 6 inches below the top of the old box culvert. We now can see that old box culvert that was buried in the 80s. So the creek just found its old stream bed in a cataclysmic action. And it's making the creek level back closer to where the Tootle has dropped since after the eruption.
So, but this one doesn't have those issues though.
No,
Which is
this-
good.
Yeah, we're good. This is not one of those culverts that was built on that material.
Okay.
And what happened to our culvert is very similar to why you can't get all the way to the visitor center on Spirit Lake Highway. That was also,
Same type of thing.
it's
washed
that
out.
same type of material. There was enough flow, it ate around, but theirs happened to be a bigger structure, but it ate around the foundation, and that's why they had the failure. And that's why what they put in temporarily also failed. So that's the rundown of 2025 construction. Fingers crossed, I can
know,
do it.
Don't need another culvert. We're running out of temporary bridges.
Well, that's why we have to get them pulled, so we have them laying around to
We'll
use.
move that one from the other one and just take it down the road.
Yeah.
Are they reusable?
Yes. So the one that is at Pleasant Hill was purchased after the 1996 flood with FEMA funding. And before it went in at Pleasant Hill, it was stored at the Castle Rock shop, and it has been used temporarily in other locations. We used it during a construction project. We offered, I believe it was the Growler Gulch project. They used our temporary bridge instead of their own, so we've used it on construction projects. We have a temporary bridge permanently installed on the Ostrander bypass. So one of the bridges out on Ostrander bypass, which is what we open up when Ostrander floods, is a county-owned temporary bridge. Then this one that's installed on Tower Road is 120 feet. I believe that's the correct number, 120 feet long, and it's called, they used to be called Bailey Bridges, and that's not what they're called anymore. And they're like Tinker Toys. So if we have another place where we need a bridge, but it's only 80 feet, we can install 80 feet of it, and 40 feet of it can be installed somewhere else. So that's the beauty of these bridges. They come in sections so you can size it to meet your location.
How much do they break down? They're easy to haul from one location to another?
Well, they do require a crane and the low boy to load it on and then unload it onto storage. And we have enough area in the Castle Rock shop to store.
Okay. I got another question that occurred to me while we were talking about this on guardrails. Do we ever recover from like an insurance company who damaged the guardrail?
So if there is an accident report and the driver and we have their information, we do bill them. The price is based on whatever the most recent, excuse me, contract is. So let's say you broke off an end section and the first 10 feet of guardrail will go to what this bid price is, that it's this type of end section and 10 feet, and come up with the cost, and we do send bills out.
Okay.
I don't, that is one of the things when we come to you with our write-offs, that often get written off and that we don't see. But there are a lot of 50%, I'd guess, of our guardrail damage we never get accident reports on because people just keep driving.
Okay.
It is our largest write-off, isn't it?
Yes.
Guardrail. And you put a shiny new one up and those fenders just get attracted.
PUD used to think the same thing about their power poles. It
Yeah.
seemed like
That's it, yeah.
a car runs off the road, it can never go in between the poles. It's always got to
has
get one
the
of them.
pole, right? Yeah.
But the nice thing about that is when the power goes out, you get there right away, even before the tow truck gets the car away from there. Because people are calling going, I got no lights. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Since I have Mike here, real quick, we had a meeting with Ecology, did a meeting, Sean was in that too, coordinated between the governor's office and the PUD, and we were appreciative that they did that. My takeaway from that meeting, it's more than just a money issue. There's things the PUDs, they want to work with Ecology on some of the requirements because they're not sure how they can meet them. They're not confident that they can meet some of those standards and not incur big extra costs and stuff. Is that pretty
Correct,
much
and
what it
even,
was?
even if they meet the regulations or be in compliance now, what were the new
Yeah,
hoops to jump through even 3 or 4 years down the road where they need new equipment or
yeah. So
update what they have?
it wasn't just the cost of installing these purifiers or whatever you want to call these things. It was a level beyond that. So I think until I got the sense there, until PUD and Ecology can work out their stuff, it just kind of sit there and there's not a whole lot we can do until they kind of figure out where they're going to go.
Exactly right. We had a chance, Sean, I mean, we met with PUD about 3 weeks ago just to see what the interest was for both sides to continue this project at the landfill. And there was interest, maybe one last push through Olympia, and then this meeting got called with the governor's office. But it's really, the ball's probably in the court of Ecology to see if they're going to make any changes at all on their side. If they don't, I think it's probably a project that doesn't go forward.
Yeah.
And not just forward with PUD, if PUD with all the work they've done and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, pumped towards this project and they can't get it off the ground, I don't see a third party coming in to assist us with the gas to energy project.
Yeah.
Or
So
waste to energy project, I'm sorry.
we really appreciated Bobak pushing that and getting us a meeting with the governor's office, but just so to keep you guys updated, it looks like it's just going to sit there until PUD and Ecology can get some kind of agreement.
But they are working on it.
The sense that I got from PUD is after this session, they wanted to sit down with Ecology and kind of hammer out what their issues are and see if they can find a way through. Was that
Yep, that's
pretty
what I got too.
accurate? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not off the table completely.
It's not off the table. They're gonna work on it, but I don't think there's anything the county can push to
Yeah.
make it happen.
And our agreement with PUD, I think, has ended. And so if we decide to move forward, we bring in another contract in front of you
Yeah.
three to continue this process
They
with
had some
PUD.
funds, federal funds committed to it. They had some different things that those timelines have all expired now, so it.
Yeah, one of their commissioners told me last summer when it first got thrown up in the air because of Ecology. They told me that basically the way the funding was set up and what the agreement was with us, that project was dead. If it moved forward at any point in time, we'd have to start from scratch with a whole new agreement. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, millions of dollars were
That's
lost.
kind
in
of
that
what we heard
timeline.
too. I think that's correct. But anyway, I just wanted, while I had you guys here, I want to make sure we updated because we
Thank you.
did have that meeting. Okay.
So I got a question. While I was gone, did you put a tarp over the
I don't-
skylight?
No, because the last couple of weeks we had snow and wind. So actually, I saw the maintenance crew this morning. We should get it up this week.
Okay.
And but we still have not received a price back from our roofing company. We asked to get a quote just so you can compare apple to apples to see what, we know what the price is to replace the skylights there, but we need a price to actually just to re-roof that section. So hopefully we'll have those by for next Wednesday.
Okay.
So we can have it, how dark it is, and also give you two numbers to pick from. And we asked our arborist also for the north lot to give us some tree options. We're getting signs made to warn our employees and our citizens our plan of attack in that north lot. So they're not surprised when they start seeing trees come out, that we will be replacing trees and what our plans are for this summer. So we should get those signs in the ground, I'm guessing, the next week, and then probably start that process in April or May.
Okay.
Just to bring something up, I got contacted by the Port of Kalama with regards to a request that they asked us to vacate a portion of Totiff Road.
Yeah.
A while ago. He just contacted me today. I told him that I'd bring it up in this meeting and see if there was, I think he said that they requested it in 2021.
I think that's what it said, 2021. Do you recall?
It was,
that?
a few years back. I recall, I believe the commissioners at the time gave the Public Works and the county engineer green light to move forward. I believe it goes through a public hearing process.
That's kind of what I remembered too. And it was before my time, but I know we talked about it after that, and I thought we were okay with doing that.
So yes, I have that and
Oh, okay.
several others on my list. The Port of Kalama indicated to me that it was not a priority, but something that they wanted to get done eventually. We've started the process. Let's just
Okay.
put it
I-
there. I guess my question to you, did they indicate we need this now or?
Well, when I talked to Eric on the phone, what he said to me was that he felt that the ball was dropped and he had no communication back from the county with regards to it. And so I told him to email me so that I could email it to you guys and then we would bring it up and figure out what we wanted to do, move forward.
I think it's still moving
It,
forward.
yeah, I guess it's just,
You just get with them and let them know that
Okay.
we haven't lost that request and we're still okay with that request.
And that was Eric that I talked to.
I know who.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen?
I'm good.
Appreciate your time. Oh, you need me to sign those things? Okay, okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Jessica.
Oh,
Let me sign these things and we'll do that, okay? Right here? That's it? Okay. Okay, we're all good? Jessica, you need an executive session? Qualifications of an applicant? 5 minutes. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, we're back from executive session. No decisions were rendered. So unless there's anything else, I'm seeing none, we will adjourn. Thank you.